Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Caleb. Today we're talking featured locations in Marvel Snap. Again, it is Wednesday, so that means that a new featured location is dropped, and this time it is Altar of Death. Altar of Death looks absolutely crazy, but before we get into it, as a refresher, featured locations happen every Wednesday, and they're going to appear 40% more frequently during games. With Marvel Snap being a location-based card game, this is going to have a very serious effect on the meta while it is active. Altar of Death is going to be the featured location from January 11th at 3 a.m. UTC and last for 48 hours through January 13th, right? Once again, for the United States, that's going to be 10 p.m. on January 10th for Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. for Central, 8 p.m. for Mountain, and 7 p.m. for Pacific. Now, what does Altar of Death do? When you play a card at Altar of Death, you can destroy a card, you destroy that card, and get +2 energy next turn. So this is going to have some really serious implications, right? You're going to be able to play some pretty crazy combos and really make use of cards in ways that you weren't really able to do before. Now, you can think of this you can think about this location like Death's Domain, but instead of just destroying a card, you get +2 energy. So if you think about cards that succeed well in a location like Death's Domain, those are also going to perform well in Altar of Death, because not only are they going to be destroyed, but you're also going to get +2 energy. So this location is just really awesome in my opinion, and I'm super excited about it. My favorite archetype is definitely Destroy, so seeing a location that really benefits from cards being destroyed makes me super happy. In this video, I'm going to help you better understand how to take advantage of Altar of Death by going over cards that I think synergize well with the location, and then I'll show off some decks that I've made for pools 1, 2, and 3 to give you some ideas on how you should be building decks while the featured location is active. Let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so to start off talking about cards that synergize well with Altar of Death, you want to think about cards that take advantage of getting destroyed, right? So just in order of what I've got, right? Deadpool, Nova, Angel. Those are cards. Well, first we'll talk Deadpool and Nova. Angel. Okay, hold on. We'll start this again. So to start talking about cards, I want to talk really just things that take advantage of when cards get destroyed, right? So if you think like Deadpool and Nova, right? Deadpool's power goes up and it goes back into your hand. Excuse me. Nova buffs everything on your side of the board by 1 when it gets destroyed, right? So Nova is a great card if Altar of Death is on the field that you can wait to play until, you know, turn 5, turn 6, right? Turn 6, you don't get the extra energy, but you do get that late game boost to all your cards that are on the field. Or you can drop it on turn 5 to make even bigger plays on turn 6 with 8 energy, as well as get the buff for things that are on the board, right? Deadpool, as I said, get that extra power, right? And you just keep dropping it all the way up until turn 6, where you want to play it somewhere where it doesn't die. Now, Angel is a card, right, that you can use to, when you play a card on Altar of Death, it gets destroyed, and Angel flies out of your deck if a card gets destroyed to then go into play. So, if on turn 1 you see Deadpool in your hand and Angel isn't, but they're both in your deck, you can play Deadpool, it'll get destroyed, go back to your hand, Angel will come out of your deck, and then land in Altar of Death, which does give you the opportunity to maybe, you know, win that location with that card. Speaking of winning that location, we've got cards like Mr. Sinister, Armor, Brood, right? Wolverine, maybe. Kind of depends on if you get lucky with where Wolverine lands, right? But these are all cards that are going to give you the opportunity to have cards in Altar of Death, right? You play Mr. Sinister, the clone gets made, the original gets destroyed, clone stays, right? The same thing with Brood. You drop Brood, the Broodlings show up, Brood dies, Broodlings stay behind. So these are all cards that you can put into this location and then maybe buff up through various other ways, right? Like maybe you're playing Patriot, maybe you're trying to play Cerebro, right? Because both Mr. Sinister and Brood are cards that work in a Cerebro 2 list. Those are the kind of cards that you can play to help you win that lane, right? Wolverine, maybe you play it in Altar of Death and then it respawns itself in Altar of Death. Or you destroy it in another location and it goes to Altar of Death, right? However, you know, you want to destroy or discard Wolverine, right? It gives you the opportunity to have something in Altar of Death so that you can win that lane. And then finally, we've got Armor, which is just going to stop everything from being destroyed. So neither you nor your opponent are going to be able to get that +2 energy buff from things being destroyed, but it does give you a chance to win that lane with your cards. So if you're trying to play something that isn't a destroy archetype, right, and doesn't take advantage of Altar of Death, Armor is definitely a card that you're going to want to have in your deck so that you can play into that location. Next up, we've got Electro and Sabretooth here on the list, which are cards that I absolutely love with Altar of Death. Electro is going to give you that on-reveal ability of adding an extra energy at your disposal. It's going to give you an extra energy every turn, but then you don't have to deal with the ongoing ability because it's going to get destroyed. Likewise, Sabretooth is going to be a card that when you destroy it, right, with Altar of Death, it goes back into your hand at 4 power, but 0 cost. So this is just a really easy way. On turn 3, 4, and 5, you can just play Sabretooth into Altar of Death and be getting yourself 2 extra energy, you know, for, you know, the next turn after that, right? So I think Sabretooth has some of the best synergy in the game with Altar of Death, right there along with Deadpool. And I'm really excited to see these 2 cards get used while Altar of Death is the featured location. Next up, we've got Thanos and She-Hulk in Death. And these are cards that I think are just going to go extraordinarily well with the featured location, right? You get yourself more energy, right? You'll be able to play She-Hulk a lot easier by not spending some on some turns. I think She-Hulk is a great card to play. Death, right? If you're trying to destroy things, Death is going to get so much value. You just destroy things, Death's energy cost goes down. Eventually, you can play her for absolutely free, maybe even with something like She-Hulk, you know, on turn 6, right? Death can lead to some really big, you know, turn 5, turn 6 plays, thanks to this featured location. Lastly, right, I named him first, but I want to talk about him last. Thanos is a card that definitely can be pretty difficult to use. You can end up with some pretty big hands, not a lot of places to play things, but generally speaking, when it comes to Thanos, you end up with these Infinity Stones in your deck. The only one of them that actually gives you value by being on the board at the end of the game is the Power Stone. Now, some of you may argue Soul Stone, and I can see why, but realistically, Soul Stone's best value is allowing you to draw something out of your deck. Unless you're playing, like, Onslaught, or you throw it into Onslaught Citadel, right? You're only going to be subtracting 4 from your opponent's lane, which can matter, but like that's just like, you know, 4 at max. Generally speaking, you'll find much more value, especially if you're playing Thanos in a destroy archetype, that you're going to get more value out of that Soul Stone by destroying it as opposed to leaving it around to get that negative ongoing effect working on your opponent. So these are the cards that synergize well with Altar of Death. A lot of them I'm really excited about. Me being a Thanos player, I own Thanos and he's one of my favorite decks to use. I'm really excited to see his synergy with Altar of Death, and I know for a fact that I'm going to be playing him a lot. And I also think just like the combination of She-Hulk and Death, as well as really just all of the other combos that you can do with the rest of the cards here on this list, is absolutely fantastic. And this is just like 12 cards. This is just like the first 12 cards that popped out to me, right, when I was going through making this, you know, list, right? But there are plenty of cards that have synergy, right? If you want cards that don't get destroyed, you've got Colossus, right? You know, shoot, there's so much other stuff in the game that really does take advantage of Altar of Death. So I really encourage you guys, look through your collections, see, you know, what kind of, you know, crazy combinations, right, that you can get from utilizing Altar of Death, right? Do you want to play, you know, a deck that's just, you know, six cost cards, and I don't know, 6 1-cost cards, right? You play a 1-cost card into Altar of Death, you know, on turn 4, boom, you're playing a 6-cost card. How about on turn 5, boom, you're playing another 6-cost card. And then you can play a 6-cost card on turn 6, right? Like, there's so much opportunity, I think, in this, with this featured location to just really do some crazy stuff thanks to the energy ramp that it provides. So I'm really excited to see what everybody does with it. Now, let's go ahead and let's get into some deck lists. All right, so this first deck list is going to be for Pool 1, and as you can see, we've got a bit of a destroy slash, like, deny archetype going on, if you will, right? We have the ability to take advantage of Altar of Death by playing, like, by playing Nova, Squirrel Girl, Angela, right? You could play Wolverine into it. right? And we can take advantage of the location by using those, right? We can sneak ourselves into the location by playing Nightcrawler, right? If we don't see Altar of Death, but we do want to take advantage of some of the destroy things we have, right? We've got Carnage, we've got Nova, we have Deathlock, right? When it comes to denying use of that lane, right? Like maybe your opponent, you know, gets off to a hot start, and you say, okay, I'm already behind, I want to stop them from being able to utilize that location, you can drop in an armor, right? We've also got Mr. Fantastic to maybe help give us some reach into the Altar of Death lane. And then, you know, we've got Colossus just to be a card that doesn't get destroyed there. Scarlet Witch to change the location. And then finally, we wrap up with Blue Marvel, who is a card that gives us the opportunity to buff up everything else on the board, so that you can, you know, really put more power out there, in hopefully be able to beat your opponent, just by using power. I would say that it is a little counterintuitive to have like the armor and the Colossus in a destroy deck, so you really do have to be paying attention to how you're playing those two cards specifically if you are really trying to take advantage of the destroy archetype, you know, that we've got kind of going on here in this pool 1 deck. So for pool 2, we're actually kind of focusing on a mixture of destroy and ongoing. So we're trying to take advantage of some of these cards that, you know, we want to destroy or want to take advantage of, you know, other cards being destroyed, right? So Nova, Angel, right? Iceman is a 1-drop that you can play to slow down your opponent, but also speed up yourself if you play it into Altar of Death. We've got Bucky Barnes, Bucky Barnes, I think, has just some incredibly great synergy, right? It wasn't on the list, but it's definitely one of the cards that you can include on the list. Bucky Barnes, you drop it, you get 2 energy, and a 2/6, right, with the Winter Soldier. So Bucky Barnes, I think, just has incredible value with Altar of Death and is a card that I'm very excited to use. We've got Cosmo, right, who is a card that has an ongoing ability, and you can also, you know, it's just great denial, you know, against your opponents. So I think Cosmo's a really good card. We've got Sabretooth, right, which I talked about. You drop it, it becomes a 0/4. You can just keep dropping it, right, for additional mana and all that. We've got Warpath. Warpath is going to be there just in case we're not able to take advantage of the Bucky Barnes, right? We drop the Warpath, we leave the Altar of Death completely alone, and we just worry about winning the other 2 lanes. That's really the idea behind, like, the rest of this deck, right? We've got Iron Man to buff up our power, Blue Marvel, buff everything, Claw provides power in a lane, and then 6 in the lane to the right. We've got Vision, which is a card that I really included, like, hey, just in case, right, we want to be able to win Altar of Death, right, we can drop Vision and then just move them right over there. It's super good. And then we've also got Spectrum, which we play a lot of ongoing cards in this deck, right? It's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? We play 5 ongoing cards, so it's like less than half, but there's enough there that you should be able to get some value from Spectrum by playing her, and then being able to buff all of your ongoing cards by 2. Okay, this last deck here, I feel like I went like a little crazy with it, but we're really trying to leverage like Death and She-Hulk and Arnim Zola, right? So how you, I think, would really like want to run this deck, right? You've got Deadpool, you've got Nova, Yondu, Psylocke, right? Those are all cards that you really just like want to see like destroyed, right? We've got Carnage and we've got Venom, so if the opportunity arises, right, we get some really big power on the board early. We can use Venom, right? We can use Carnage. Even if we don't see Altar of Death, this deck works great at taking advantage of the Destroy archetype, right? We've got Moon Girl, because if we get the opportunity to copy a She-Hulk and a Death, and they're both able to be played for super cheap, that's going to be a total of like 44 power that we could potentially put on the board on turn 6, which is absolutely insane. Moon Girl just works great with She-Hulk and Death. It's a chef's kiss combo. Carnage, right? Venom, we kind of talked about. Sabretooth, once again, you know, same idea. Yondu is actually going to help you lower deaths cost twice because Yondu is going to destroy a card from the top of your opponent's deck. That lowers Death's value. And then we've also got the fact that you can play it into Altar of Death. You get +2 energy, and you destroy a card, which means Death is going to be even cheaper. So this is a deck that I just envision, right? When it works, it just absolutely pops off like crazy, because you can also, on that final turn, if you can play She-Hulk and Death for like super cheap and also drop Arnim Zola, like, the amount of power that you can put on the board with this deck just seems absolutely crazy to me. Also, if you play Death and She-Hulk in a lane that isn't Altar of Death, you can drop the Arnim Zola and then get those copies and have one, you know, end up in Altar of Death and probably, like, win, right? It's just, the possibilities that I see with this are absolutely endless. I really think Altar of Death is actually a really great location. I think a lot of people see it and they're like, oh, I have to destroy a card, but there's literally archetypes that are designed around destroying cards. So I personally think that, you know, and really, like, a lot of the Savage Land, you know, featured locations are really going to benefit destroy archetypes. So definitely be on the lookout for playing those a lot this month. But this is just one variation of a pool 3 deck that you can run with Altar of Death, and I really think that the combination of She-Hulk and Death is really, if you got him, you should be playing him in every pool 3 deck while Altar of Death is active. I think that it's going to be way too easy not to get both of these cards onto your side of the board. I don't know, today, tomorrow, and January 13th. So yeah, just do it. Just run it. I think it looks like a lot of fun. Will it be successful? I certainly hope so. But I haven't tested it yet. But I think it's got some viability for sure. All right, guys. So as you can see, right, Altar of Death, it does have the opportunity to provide us with some really crazy decks, you know, strategies that we can run while this featured location is active. I know I'm really excited about it, and I'm looking forward to how you guys are feeling about it, right? So please tell me, what do you feel about the location? How do you feel about the card synergies that I recommended, as well as the decks that I've shown you as well? Please let me know how you feel about those in the comments below. And I really hope that this video has helped you better prepare for this featured location. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you did like it, please consider leaving it a thumbs up. And if you want to stay up to date with me and all of my content, please consider subscribing. If you guys want to catch me playing Marvel Snap live on Twitch, you can catch me there at twitch.tv/mynamescaleb731. I also have links for other socials in my bio, or in the description below, so please check those out. Thank you guys again for watching the video, and I do look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, my friends.